We're about to go ahead and begin, and I'd like to introduce, to start us off, Mr. Ronaldo Nicholson, who's our Deputy Director of DDOT, on behalf of DC Streetcar. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I appreciate the interest in our little project here. We're very excited, and I'm not going to stand up here. I'm going to let the rest of my team come over to the table. William P. Teague is the contracting officer, chief contracting officer with DDOT. He'll be also presenting today. Matt Brown, he's the resource manager. He makes sure I have the money to do this. Thomas Perry. Thomas is the program manager for DC Streetcar. And before I get started, I saw Terry in the room. Director Terry Bellamy. We also have here, and please advance the slide. Or is that me? One more. I also want to introduce our team of professionals that have been helping. Gentlemen, take a seat. I'm going to walk around. Our program manager for DC Streetcar for the last two and a half years has been HDR Corporation, and they're led by program manager Steve Carroll. Deputy program manager is James Brown, and who's been really assisting us with the RFP development, Bill Palmer. Bill, thank you. From a financial assistance with the team, Ernest & Young, we have here today Tom Rosakis. I think I got that right. And John Gossmark. John's new. As far as a deal consultant, we've been working with Allen and Overy, and here today from New York is Elaine Ellis. You doing this? Go. So, integrated premium transit, what is it? Well, it started off, the program started off was as an effort to reintroduce DC Streetcar to the Washington, D.C. area. As we were looking at our corridors, as we were looking at the growth of citizens, businesses, economy in the district, it came to us that we could not keep having single occupancy cars, parking issues within the district and maintain growth. So that interest was, how do we best utilize these dollars, provide economic development, and provide a transit solution. DC Streetcar, or Streetcar, looking throughout the country, was one of the civil engineering solutions that checked all the boxes in that. But we also saw that we already had a bus system, a robust bus system with WMATA. And while WMATA is a regional transportation agency, we wanted a way to connect our neighborhoods. We wanted a way that we could be reactive to the growth, to the economic development. So we wanted to come up with a system that integrates both fixed rail streetcar and rubber tire transit in a way that would become basically the model for the country. So we came up with this title of Integrated Premium Transit. And as I talked about some of the economic things, I want to talk about this integration. As I said, Metro WMATA already provides a lot of transit solutions, but they are a regional authority. We have a number of neighborhoods that are in the growth, in the transformational state, and we wanted something that could connect these neighborhoods to heavy rail transit, to connect them with the growing businesses, entertainment, but also have something for the tourists to be proud of as they come to the nation's capital. Premium. So when we look at the word premium, we say, how do we make transit, how do we brand transit such that everybody wants to use it? We look at our current circulator, the 6 routes that are currently out there. If everyone uses circulator, anyone uses circulator, you know that whenever you're on a streetcar, you know when that bus is coming, because it's coming at rapid headways. Those of us who has to take the WMATA bus, we're watching as the circulator goes by. So when we talk about premium, we're looking at a way to integrate the premium brand that the circulator has with that of now fixed rail streetcars. And yes, we're looking for a team to come to us and provide all the bells and whistles. We want you to have Wi-Fi on our system. We want you to be able to pull out your smartphone and know exactly when either one of those are coming, how it's going to get you there. And what this is about is to basically look for a team to give us all that. So we're talking about 22 miles right now, a streetcar, on 3 separate lines. In 2010, we had a system plan of some 37 miles. And that looked at a high level of what we could do. Well, we've drilled down, and through the request of the mayor's office, said, what can we provide as a priority for DC streetcar? And that came out to be 22 miles and 3 lines. Some of those are currently under construction. Some of those segments are pending operation. Go back, please. We look at the One City line, connecting the Benning Road Metro Station with Georgetown. In that segment, we have the H Benning segment. That 2.2 mile segment will go into operation definitely within the first half of this year. We are in the environmental phase of the other 2 segments, what we call 1C, Benning Road Extended, and 1A, Union Station to Georgetown. Now, both of those segments have their uniqueness. You have a bridge to be replaced in both of them. The Benning Road Bridge over Kenilworth Avenue, CSX Railroad. That will be part of the project. That will need to be replaced. The Hopscotch Bridge. We temporarily connected to Union Station under the current construction. Recognizing the development of Barney Place and the expansion of Union Station, we have been coordinating with Amtrak, Union Station for over a year on how we replace that bridge and extend westerly along H Street, turning up New Jersey Avenue to K Street to continue in the central business district of DC, what we call K Street Transitway, where we will have a dedicated right-of-way for streetcar. Dedicated right-of-way for streetcar and transit. Buses as well. We then continue to Georgetown to right now, depending on where our NEPA document ends us up, somewhere at K Street and Wisconsin Avenue. As with any NEPA process, is subject to change as we go through that process. There'll be a lot of input, there'll be a lot of feedback. And what we plan is to advance, what we say 3 of them, because there's another NEPA going over the 11th Street Bridge into the M Street Southwest waterfront area. All 3 will be conducted concurrently with the procurement of this project, with the focus of having NEPA clearance prior to issuing the NTP. NEPA clearance on all 3 segments prior to issuing the NTP. The other major segment is what we call north-south, which will take from Buzzards Port on the northern corridor up to the Walter Reed, Tacoma Station area. That is in really a planning stage right now. Where we end up with that, it has to complete that planning effort. Then we'll go into NEPA. That is why we call that corridor phase 2. Because in the time frame we're talking about to issue that procurement document, that notice to proceed, we do not think we will have sufficient information on north-south to develop a price. So we've broken the procurement into 2 phases. From a bus standpoint, you have the current 6 routes of Circulator. Now, I must tell you, Circulator is an expansion road. We can't keep our council members from asking for new routes. We have a document that talks about that expansion over the next 10 years. Our primary expansion over the next 2 or 3 years will be into the National Mall area with facilities. So as we develop the RFP, we will provide information about that expansion and the future expansion to be as part of phase 1 for the procurement. Phase 2 is where we'll be working with our partners at WMATA on non-regional bus service and how the timing, when, the best routes for that to come in will be discussed, will be studied, will be negotiated, for lack of a better term, over the period of operation. The procurement opportunity. We are delivering this as a design, build, operate, and maintain. But we'll also, go back please, but we'll also have what we're calling a project development agreement. And what both of those bullets, what we're looking for is a team that could hit each one of those letters. We need you to design those 22-mile priority segments. We need you to design it in a way that you could efficiently, profitably build it with as less interruption and disruption as possible. But then we want you to integrate the operation in that design. We want it to be efficient. We want it to be innovative. And of course, we want it to be maintained. Maintained such that it's competitive amongst you and efficient to the citizens of the District of Columbia. Go back. The PDA is where we'll look at north-south. It's where we'll look at those transit options. It's where we will look at how we really integrate, not just the fixed rail and the buses, but also the system we're calling DC Street Code. How do we integrate that system, not just on the 22 miles here, but scalable for future expansion? What is the best way to integrate that so that we push the envelope on innovation? NCPC has already commented that we have to protect the view shades. That will be a requirement in NEPA, meaning that a lot of overhead wires is going to be met with a lot of scrutiny. So our vision, DDOT's vision, the mayor's vision, is to have an off-wire system. We plan to have the first off-wire streetcar system in the country, if not the world. That's the plan. It may not happen at NTP, but you will be judged, you will be evaluated on how can you get us there. What innovation, what ingenuity can you get us such that we do not have to be concerned about the maintenance, the visual impact of catenary wires as a propulsion system for 22 miles going up to 37, whatever a streetcar. Now you know. I talked about the design build, where specifically we'll be talking about 1C, 1A, and 2B, right? 2A. 2A. From the foot of the 11th Street Bridge, local bridge, over the 11th Street Bridge to a corridor yet to be defined through NEPA to get us from the Navy Yard area to Buzzards Point, to the Fish Market, along M Street, Main Avenue. NEPA will decide what will be the final corridor. Operate and maintain all those segments shown here upon the completion and acceptance of each of those segments. The operate and maintain includes both existing equipment and facilities. Right now, that's envisioned to be at least 2 car barns for streetcar, possibly 1 for circulator bus service. But as we develop the RFP, as we work with the shortlisted teams, that may change. As we develop that final RFP, which right now is envisioned to be in the fall, and I'm still in Pete's thunder, in the fall of 2014. Next slide. Here we talk about where we are in the environmental process, and it varies for each segment shown. You would note again, segment 3, north-south as we currently call it, is currently a planning study. We don't really have a schedule on that yet. The other segment, 2D, where we're working with JBAB, is also in the TBD column. We've been talking with Commander Calaria for over a year and a half, and he's trying to address some security issues on bringing streetcar on the joint base. But that is one of the alternatives, one of the alignments that we're currently looking at, and would be a subsequent phase of this procurement. Definitely not phase 1 at this point, potentially phase 2, and I haven't even went into phase 3 or 4. Next slide. We talked about provisions for DC circulator services. Yes, we're talking about the operation and maintenance of the existing system. Currently, that system, under contract with WMATA, is operated and maintained. Currently. It is envisioned that upon notice to proceed, sometime with an effective, efficient transition period, this developer will take over that operation and maintenance of the existing 6 or expanded lines. Next. The PDA, that's where we want to partner with you all. That's where the private sector gets to provide us all the things that the private sector provides in a P3 collaborative environment. That is the PDA. And you've heard me say it, integration, optimization. And that's what we're looking for. But I can't keep saying it isn't just about the 2 types, the 2 modes of transit. It is also in the system itself. We're looking for that efficient system, that branded efficient system that all could use. About it? Funding. The council has already approved $400 million in the capital program. They have also included legislation in subsequent years that will provide 25% of all incremental increases, all growth in the city. 25% of that will go to the capital cost of streetcar. Some of the additional sources we see are our ongoing O&M operations will now be put towards the contract. federalized programs that we currently use, especially for those bridge assets I talked about earlier. That money will be inserted into this procurement. And any funds, again, through that innovation of the private sector that we can generate through the operation, through the proposed operation, through that brand for streetcar. Those are also funds that will be utilized on this procurement. So let me say now, this is a federal program. Go ahead. This is a federal program. So we will be abiding by federal highway, federal transit, laws, procedure, regulations. But we also have the benefit, you all have the benefit, because it is fully funded, we have a level of certainty that should definitely help you all as you look and prepare your proposals. I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Pete.
Thank you, Nick. So again, my name is Pete Haig, and I'm the contract officer on this program. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about how the process is going to work. This is a two-step procurement where we've issued a request for qualifications. And there are a set of criteria in that request for qualifications that we'll expect you to respond to. As we go through those submissions, we will identify 4 qualified teams who will progress to receiving the request for proposal. So this isn't any sort of a new process, but this is the process that we're using today or in this program. Once we have issued the RFP and received responses, there'll be one, possibly multiple meetings with the shortlisted firms to talk about an industry review, find out where we could have made the RFP better, and then there will be a subsequent issue of the RFP that will finally be quoted on. As we go through the process, we will have identified 4 shortlisted teams, but DDOT reserves the right to ultimately work with only one. Please advance, please. The schedule for this program, I think the first one I want to stop at is the deadline for questions and clarifications in the document today is February 28th. We've made a decision that that may not be enough time for people to respond, so we're moving that until February 7th. We moved it out a week. Mark. Did I say February? That's what I want to see if you were listening. All right, and the due date for statements of qualification is March 31st. We anticipate in the first week or so of May that we'll announce who the shortlists are. We have a date of May 6th. We'll probably make that date, but I'd ask you to keep in mind that things can happen. So if it's a few days, that's the way it is, frankly. And we'll issue a draft RFP, as we talked about in the previous slide, and then, as Nick mentioned earlier, in the fall of 2014, we'll come forward with a final RFP. Some things that we'll be looking for in the responses are how responsive are you. These sound like really simple things, but if there are forms in the request for qualification, fill them out. Even if they don't apply to you, just put that they don't apply, but don't leave anything unanswered. We'll also be looking for, do you have a design engineer who is registered in the district? So there are a variety of different pass-fail criteria that we'll look at. There is a qualifications and evaluation and weighting criteria that is summarized with these 3 bullets, but behind them, if you look in the document, you'll see there are 20+ subcategories that an evaluation team, a technical evaluation team, will be looking at. That evaluation will happen in a couple of ways. The evaluation team members will individually look at the responses and rank and rate them based on their own opinions, and then there will be a consensus meeting where the entire team comes together for the first time and is exposed to what each of their peers had given for grades or scores. There are federal requirements in the document. There are some DVE requirements that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Training services provisions are in the document. So, for example, there is an apprenticeship program in the district. We'll be looking to make sure that all those who submit their qualifications have that program or have a plan to be involved in it. Let's talk about improper communications and contacts. In the document that's on the street today, it identifies who to submit your questions to and who should you talk to. That person happens to be me. There's also an email address in the solicitation where you can send your questions. Please, 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 do yourselves a favor. Don't call somebody that you think you know in DDOT and ask them a question. Because in the moment that you do, you potentially disqualify yourself from further consideration. We would want to see that happen. In terms of conflicts of interest, there are organizations that have been involved early on before the SOQ was out. We have a process for determining if somebody does have a conflict of interest, and it wouldn't be fair for them to submit a proposal. I'll be chairing that with assistance from the chief and also from our legal organization. Some of that will depend on the degree of participation and the level of participation that somebody may have had prior to the SOQ being issued. There are protest procedures that are outlined in the document. We know that that's not going to happen because Nick's going to make sure we do a really good job and we're really above board and we're as transparent as can be. But if you looked on page 33, it would tell you how to file a protest. We do reserve some rights in it, and those rights might be as simple as we need to make some changes as we've learned more going through the process and looking at the site and all of the different things that we wish to do. There are other laws and regulations that may get added to the SOQ or later on in the RFP process. So this is a fluid sort of a document and a fluid sort of procurement. DVE requirements, they are spelled out pretty well in the request for qualifications now, but again, as a target, we're looking at a 25% participation rate for disadvantaged business enterprises. We'll be looking in terms of training services. Does somebody have an OJ, an on-the-job training program in existence today? And if they don't, what's the plan to have one? The apprenticeship program that I mentioned earlier. And again, all of that is spelled out in the RFQ right now. And that's it for the moment. Entertain some questions and answers, Nick?
Yeah. At this time, we'll let Thomas is going to kind of referee, but we'll take questions from the audience. I would note that, again, that everything's being recorded, both from an audio and from a court reporter standpoint, so there will be a transcript available with the presentation as soon as we can get all those documents compiled and formatted such that we can upload on the website. Questions? Show of hands. Oh, we did that good a job.
Just while you're thinking of the 150 questions that I just know you all have for us, the answers that we give you today will be the answers to the best of our knowledge. It's a fluid kind of an environment, it's a fluid kind of procurement, so things could change. But we'll have identified in the request for qualifications, and as we go forward, where to find all of those answers. So if you get an answer today, don't necessarily take that to the bank, but that's a point of reference.
And what piece, final thing, what is posted with everything the minutes from that is that final answer. So we will go back and validate it, and it will be posted as part of the transcript and presentation on the website prior to completion of the question period. Yes.
Bill Phillips, Parsons. Exhibit 1 appeared to be missing unless it's somewhere else on your site that I haven't found yet. It's the Vistas reference document that is referred to as Exhibit 1.
We'll check and validate that.
Lieutenant.
Dave Upkowitz, Archer Western. On page B9, under letter for parent company support, you have in there, it may be provided. Are you requiring a letter of parent company support from a subsidiary, or is it just you would like to have one if possible?
If it were me, I'd certainly include it, but it's not required. That's why we use the word may.
Questions?
Ali Altano, C2PM. Can you indicate if the procurement is going to be low bid, best value, or based on qualifications strictly, or a combination of all three?
Well, it's going to be the highest score, if you will, for all of the subcategories put together for the qualification space. So who do we believe, based on the independent and consensus meetings, who got the highest score? I mean, it's really that simple. We're going to let the math, to a certain degree, drive this.
But I think where I was coming from, will there be a price component? And there will. So the best value calculation that we will be providing is not yet developed, but it will be a calculation that's taking consideration the scores that Pete mentioned from a technical proposal standpoint, as well as that bid price on the design build components.
Louis Lugo, Paco Group. Do you plan to make the sign-in roster available through the website?
Yes.
Thank you.
Where do we find it? Not trying to get in the weeds, but 531 F and G are part of your evaluation criteria for understanding and ability to meet your goals. Don't find it in the submittal requirement, and trying to see where we shove it in is a question. There's 12 points, 6 for each of those two categories, F and G, but it looks like it goes somewhere around 2.3, and if that works, fine, unless you want it somewhere else. Or is it a general evaluation of our whole proposal?
I'm going to look over to my support team over here.
We'll provide clarification.
Thanks. We'll provide clarification on that.
All I can.
Question?
You know, to that last question, something that occurs to me based on experience, and if it were me, if something is listed as an important criteria that could be evaluated against, well, you want to manage the amount of real estate that you're using in the document. Maybe you want to tell us something, and then in another section, tell us again, and then in another section, tell us what you told us, so that you're certain that you have it covered. But that's what I would do.
Understand. You're very strict that you want us to follow your outline, and I just don't want to run them up.
Questions? Any more questions?
Hi, Donald Gibson with Edgemore Infrastructure and Real Estate. Question for Nick. Nick, I know in your presentation you mentioned the 2 bridges that need to be replaced potentially coming into this. Do you see that entering in the RFP phase?
Yes. Our plan currently is for at least the Hopscotch Bridge to have it up to the TS&L level. We're working now to see if we can get that level of plan development also for the Benning Road Bridge. But my goal would to be to at least have it up to somewhere that the feds have already blessed the type, size, and location of the structure. But I want to balance that with, again, the developers being able to come back with ideas as well, meeting those goals. So that would be some of the things that we will work out through the RFP process. Yes.
Bill Knapp, CH2M Hill. Your schedule for the proposal due date, I think you said RFP in the fall of this year. And what would you anticipate in general terms when the proposal will be? How much time are you going to be providing for the proposal preparation?
James?
Yeah, the intent is that the first draft of the RFP would be listed as shortlisted components in May. We go through a series of review rounds with that. Depending upon the number of rounds needed, that could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. So it's really just the component to get it right. So we've documented it more formally. Should be that would be sometime this fall or end of the year. We then anticipate around 90 days to evaluate those proposals.
So, help me understand. So
First to second.
final RFP, that's when proposals will be due?
Yeah, final, correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Please stand.
Joel McNeil with Brookville. Just as a vehicle builder with off-wire capabilities, when do we enter the conversation or this whole process? Streetcar manufacturer.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm Carl Jackson. I'm Associate Director for
Come forward, please.
Mass Transit. Hey, how you doing? Well, we probably are looking at including that in the conversation probably after, would you say after the RFP?
I guess I'm going to ask you to be more specific in your question. If you're talking about you talking with the ladies and gentlemen here, I would hope that you're doing that now. Now, if you're talking about as far as the RFP development, that would start with that May submittal going through the development of the RFP, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good.
You can get a chair. Come on
In the
back.
back. In the back.
John Couture, Skanska, if you don't mind continuing on that subject, given the limited technology currently existing, I'd just like to hear more about what you envision for the off-wire going forward in the future.
Well, I'll start this and let me kind of give it to Carl because he's the real guy. I'm just the bridge engineer. But I would say I've talked to a number of manufacturers over the last several months. And we have told them of our vision of off-wire technology. And you combine that with the investment that DC is prepared to put into streetcar and this technology, and we really see an opportunity for the industry. And I won't say names, but again, I've talked with a number of manufacturers, and when challenged, and let me digress and say that these will also be Buy America compliant cars. We feel fairly confident that working with you all in the industry and the investment that we're prepared to put into this, working with FTA, that we can get there. There are 3 technologies that I happen to be aware of. And some of them claim that they can get as far as a mile with reliable propulsion units. Now, I'm quick to say that's maybe true, but you're not in DC with congestion. You're not dealing with snow and ice. You're not dealing with our grades. But we are prepared to work with you to understand what it's going to do to get that reliability up with the different technologies. Maybe it's a hybrid. We really want you all as developers, again, to come back to us and propose that efficient, reliable system that can work and meet our performance requirements that we're going to have in the RFP. So, I'm an optimist. So yeah, I'm fairly confident that at NTP we may have some distance of certainty, but by the time we get to phase 2 maybe the latter part, the industry, the manufacturing as a whole will understand what we're looking for and provide it. Carl?
Yeah, we also want you to know that we want to kind of lead the industry in this technology, and the district is willing to make the investments to assist a manufacturer and a team to help us get there. Right now, we know that we have facilities enough to test vehicles. By the time we get through this process, we should be able to put a vehicle on the right-of-way to see how far we can get it. But at the same time, you know, we're going to be looking to you guys, you know, that are more familiar with these technologies and familiar with what we can and cannot do to come up with, you know, the strategy and the technology that's going to help us get there.
Yes.
Technology. The existing 6 cars that you have, how do you envisage those
going forward in terms of interoperability with the new fleet when we're looking at a fleet of probably over 100 cars, I understand?
Speak up a little bit here.
Sorry.
The 6 cars.
Six cars.
Six existing cars.
You wanna,
Well, first of all, we're not gonna look at the 6 cars as a, you know, an end in of itself. You know, it's gonna be one of 2 or 3 things. It's gonna be either a retrofit to the newer technology. It's going to be sale. We can potentially sell them to comparable and compatible streetcar systems, you know, or, you know, we can use them for training, test, and other things.
And there's a follow-up question on that. How is the integration with other local streetcar projects? How is that being coordinated?
great question. We have been talking with our neighbors in Virginia regarding how we integrate what we're doing with what they're proposing, and I see the opportunity for some partnerships in that. As we get to define exactly what we are doing, probably we're ahead of everybody right now. So we still see an opportunity there, but there is a cooperative effort both in Montgomery County, in Arlington County, as we see our system growing and expanding.
Would you see any conflict of interest between an entity active on the, say, agency side for Arlington County and on the supplier side for this project?
I wouldn't want to answer that in this forum. If there is a concern, I would suggest you send a letter, and we'll get you a determination.
Use the term hybrid. That invokes a certain thought process. Is that truly the word you were thinking? Would you consider a Prius streetcar? Has an engine, has a battery pack, can run battery until it runs down, and then has an engine.
Bill, I'm gonna be honest with you. I stole the word. it was someone in the industry that told me that them looking at an off-wire technology in other parts of the world led them to believe that maybe the best solution, especially for what we have in Washington, D.C., is a hybrid of technologies.
I mean, there are DMUs around the world, Ottawa, as an example. If that's an acceptable vehicle, it certainly widens the technology options for a wireless system.
I guess the best way to say it, we really want you to tell us.
We want the industry to tell us what's the solution to the challenge that the district has in this regard. We'll give you the environment. You tell us how to get to the solution for it. We don't have a preconceived notion in that regard.
Is that too hard a challenge? I see some heads going on. I didn't get an answer though.
Question? Please, stand up. Yeah, Joe Canis of Bombardier. So based on what I'm hearing from the types of vehicles, you're basically open to whatever vehicle configuration that could best suit the needs of this project. We're not necessarily keyed on the existing types of the 6 vehicles out here, that particular physical format, weight, and geometry. It's not necessarily the platform we're looking forward to.
We're not into any one technology. What we're really looking for is something that resolves our problem. And we'll want to work with the industry to get there. And it may evolve over years.
That's an important point.
Basically, this is a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, we're looking for you guys to help us paint the picture. Next question, please stand up.
John Christie. At this point, would you need a detailed minority business participation or a commitment in the request for qualification?
Not in the RFQ. The SOQ, basically in the RFQ, we set a target. We want to get the proposers in mind that we are looking for a high level of DBE participation. But as many of you all are probably aware, federal programs require that we do an analysis of capacity. So as we develop the RFP and get more specific of the scope of work, the items of work, and can conduct those analyses, through the RFP process, we will develop those goals that will be presented in the final RFP. So I would say that yes, we anticipate a very robust DBE participation in this program, as well as OJT. I mean, heck, we're starting a new industry in the District of Columbia. And where we got a high unemployment, we're looking to employ a lot of DC citizens. And we're going to have to be very innovative in how we do that. All feds, hold your ears, because we're a federal program.
But at least in the RFQ, you would identify qualified DBE firms. Is that what you're saying?
There is no criteria for a DBE plan in the RFQ, in the SOQ.
In the RFP, there would be discussion.
Right.
But for the RFQ,
I think we do identify managers and leads requirements of the teams.
next question.
Again, pardon me, just to follow up on him. The DBE program, does the company have to be certified as a DBE by the district, or would you accept, let's say, Virginia and the surrounding states, or is there any?
Has to be certified by the district.
By the district.
You know, it's great if you're certified someplace else, but yes, the district.
Is there any agreements where you would accept, call it an easier process, to accept the certification from Virginia?
Go ahead, please.
Yes, Linda Fennell, Office of Civil Rights, DBE Support Services Manager. You must be DBE certified in the district. So you can have either WMATA certification or you can have DDOT certification, but you must have it here in the district.
Question? Please stand up, stand in the back.
Patrick McGowan with CERCO. The current circulated program is run by a local union, and the actual O&M, or is that our choice whether we use it a union or not, or is that a requirement?
First of all, Circulator is operated by a contract that the district has with WMATA. And WMATA went out and they have a contract with First Transit, and First Transit's operator today are unionized. So going into this particular process, you would be a contractor with us. Right now, there's no federal money in the program, but we anticipate that federal money may be in the program. And of course, if federal money is in the program, that would trigger the 13C, which would require union wages to be paid. But right now, that is not the case. As we move forward, and if we federalize parts of this program going forward, then that would be the case. That you would have to hire union. You have to pay union wages.
Okay. The gentleman there.
Bill Breen, Mass Electric. When you say off wire, are you just referring to no wire up in the air loop, or nothing electrical distributed in the ground?
When I say off wire, I mean cadmium. I mean that the primary propulsion system for the streetcar is based on cadmium.
So would an in-street cadmium be acceptable? Non-aerial, be built into the street?
I don't, we would have to see that. I see no reason it wouldn't be considered, if that answers your question.
Yes.
Hello, Joe Lewis, Business Transformation Group. Question about the federal funding in the operate maintain component. Will there be a DB requirement in that phase of the project as well?
Yes.
Whether it's federal funding or not?
Yes. Yes.
Questions?
Sorry. Bill. A4.2 is where you discuss the page count, and you exclude Appendix A, but you don't exclude Appendix B, which is the legal qualifications. Could we suggest that you put that in the excluded list? Just because it potentially could eat up a bunch of pages.
So noted.
Questions? Last call for questions. Okay. If you do have any additional questions, James Brown, can you give us the email address? And I believe the 28th is the last date to get those questions in. March 7th. March 7th. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Receptionist, kitchen.